speaking of ones to the future, Cardano.
Yeah, Cardano. And speaking of hype, we've also got NFTs. There's a lot happening in the crypto space now.
Huge.
I think you guys have been hearing a lot about it.
Yeah.
Big attention on NFTs.
NFTs.
Not so much, I'd say, on Cardano, but that's been the general theme for a while.
Yeah.
Kind of a sleeper.
Cardano have a little bit of hype recently. Yeah, because I can't remember which element, but they were releasing part of their, I think it's phase 2 of their plan, was due in Feb. So I think it's essentially just because of that.
So basically
phase 3 yet to come.
Yeah, they were, for a little while, Cardano was a project that was under the control of a foundation. So there's like the Cardano Foundation, or IOHK. It's another separate entity that controlled the currency, and kind of they could, I guess, validate all transactions. They had almost full control over everything, whereas now it's 90% decentralized. So the control has partially been handed over to the holders and to the community. So it's a very different scenario.
They seem to be the whole thing behind Cardano.
We lost
Morgan's left. He'll come back.
It's all right, he'll come back.
But yeah, the whole thing seemed to be that they wanted to be the most decentralized cryptocurrency on the market. And obviously, the thing is as well, they've got quite a good little track record with that Charles Hoskinson, obviously co-founder of Ethereum. On basically with the coin since 2017 when it landed. So I mean, if you got in at 2017, then fair play to you because you are balling at the moment. But it's definitely, even at the moment, there's talk of whether it will be a 50 times coin or whether it will be 100 times coin. There's huge potential. Mind you, there always is with cryptocurrencies. It's one of those where it's high risk, high reward. A lot more than we tend to see in the stock market, because obviously the barriers to entry of the stock market are much higher, and it's much higher regulated. And cryptos are so new. But yeah, well, because I know you're a big fan, aren't you, Jord, of Cardano?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the currency that I had the biggest holdings in for quite a while, up until when I sold a bit. That was basically my main holding, and it was from before, when there was like basically not much hype on this. And I kept buying when it was going down. I was just like a big believer in the currency. And I guess the reason for it is because they're pretty much the only currency or the only project in the entire space that is backed by actual academic peer-reviewed research.
Yeah.
Everything else is very startup-y. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's very like, get up, go, write some code. Who cares if it breaks later? Like it's just we'll work it out later kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas this is, they're trying to build pretty much like a financial operating system for the entire planet. And you can't do that if you have unreliable code, if you have stuff that isn't properly vetted. So
it seems to be is trying to be the answer to all the problems we've seen with Ethereum, all the problems with Bitcoin, and obviously the way they've said it is it will be the third generation of cryptocurrencies, with Bitcoin being the first, Ethereum being the second, and Cardano being the third. So obviously the peer review thing was a big point of that, and I know because they spent 2 years developing it, obviously before launch, and a big part of that was peer reviewing all the code and all the problems, what they need to fix. So it does seem a very almost like a corporation type stance to it, rather than some guy in his room who's just created a coin and you're rolling the dice to see whether it, well, not even a dice, because the probability is not that high. But it's based on a roulette wheel whether you'll make money off it or not.
Yeah, pretty much. Morgan, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, all good now.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it'd be really interesting to see because obviously, as we've seen previously with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, obviously they come in cycles. So it is due a crash, and when will that happen? I'm not sure. I think this time, obviously with Tesla buying into Bitcoin and a few other firms, whether this crash will happen, I think that's the question. It'd be quite nice to see some other big companies buy into Cardano, but obviously they haven't quite yet. I think the main concern with people, which can be a positive or a negative, is obviously regulation in this. So the tax issue, and when that comes in, and this is why we've seen in Tesla buying into Bitcoin, because they've got in before that. If it is regulated, because they're in before that, it's not really a concern. So whether we see that with other companies following on, whether that's in Bitcoin or in Cardano, I'm not sure. But as you were just saying with it, it's hard to put a price point because for me, just looking at the chart and what I've seen from past people that have been invested in it, they're at their sort of pinnacle point of whether they will drop down or they'll go to their new all-time highs. There's price predictions, in the next sort of 2 to 3 years of people are saying $5. And then some are saying in the next 10 years, this is a $100 stock. Can you see that?
Well, I think first off, when you're trying to evaluate a cryptocurrency, it's really, really different to a stock. So we kind of look first at its competitors. So Cardano has really a main competitor in Ethereum, which is the second largest cryptocurrency. Now, I think at the time of us talking right now, the market cap of Ethereum is $200 billion US. So then you also have the market cap of Cardano, which is $35 billion. I think the main reason why I can't see this going up in the short term is because the smart contract functionality, a lot of the actual functionality that Ethereum has that Cardano is supposed to overthrow it with is not currently in place. So it's very much a speculative stock. And I don't feel like there's much of a speculative environment anymore around crypto. I think people think, okay, this is where it's going to be. I can't see it going higher, like let's say in the next year. And if it does, it won't be a lot.
The only way I can see this going higher is like with other blockchains. So just recently it's been put out that Coinbase, you'll be able to trade with Cardano through Coinbase now. And obviously that brings a whole other users to this. So bringing new users, being able to trade it, you can see that going up. I don't know how much, but apart from that, like you just said, it's very difficult.
They are. Obviously, they've just done, I think, phase 2 of their plan. I think there was around 5 phases.
There are 5,
So obviously they I can't remember the exact end date, but I think it was next year or the year after. They were basically planning on having all the stages completed. So it will be a long-term play. It's not something you can just. It's not like a SPAC play where you're waiting for a certain date.
Waiting for a merger.
Obviously they will have the catalyst, which are the phase rollouts, like we've just seen in February. Where the price will go up a lot. It's interesting. George, do you know much about? I was having a look, and obviously they've got this proof of stake. Which obviously is meant to be very different from the proof of work that Bitcoin uses. And sort of the way I understand it is that obviously Bitcoin, anyone can mine Bitcoin. There's no sort of regulation. It's just unlimited. Mine all the Bitcoin you want. And Cardano, each sort of user gets a slot to mine one coin, I believe. And if you don't mine the coin or whatever, it just goes to the next person. So they just moves along the line essentially, rather than being a free for all. Which apparently is one of the main problems that we see with Bitcoin.
I think one of the main problems with Bitcoin, like you said, is proof of work is nice and it's efficient, let's say, cryptographically, but it uses a lot of energy. Like Bitcoin uses the energy of a small country.
Yeah.
Just to get a small amount of transactions going right now. I mean, if you think of the amount of people using it, it's not a lot. Now, proof of stake is supposed to fix this problem because this type of algorithm is like instead of someone on their computer like doing a bunch of calculations in order to solve some unnecessarily hard problem to prove that this is the correct transaction, instead of that, we have people who actually hold the currency kind of stake what they own.
Yeah.
And then that in turn allows the transactions to be validated. It's kind of a weird system. It's very, I think it's a very complex system to try to explain in a short sentence. But if you think of it like, let's say I had 5,000 Cardano, I had 5,000 of ADA, their currency. I would earn approximately 4.6 or 4.7% in interest every year just holding the money.
Mm.
So if you think of that right now, let's say you own 5,000 Cardano, that's going to cost you roughly $5,000 to $6,000, but you'll make twice as much as what you would have made if you would put it in a high dividend stock.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's such, because I must admit, it is quite a revolutionary kind of crypto. I mean, we've only seen it with this, and IOTA, I think, is another one.
It's like that's like no transaction fees or very very low transaction fees.
Yeah, so they're sort of both trying to be sort of these third gen cryptocurrencies, which just everything's new in the crypto world at the moment. It is a bit of a wild west, but they seem to be trying to implement a structure into it. And obviously, just because Bitcoin is the first doesn't necessarily mean it will be the best. I mean, there's so many limitations that we've seen. One of the interesting things about Cardano was this treasury idea that they've got as part of it, where essentially where Bitcoin has a limited number, in this case, they have obviously the halving. The way I understand it would be that the Cardano coins, basically they can release extra coins into the market as and when they need to. So it's much more, it's similar to how countries at the moment print extra cash and things like that. It seems a very proper way of doing it, really. It seems like they've thought about future-proofing it a lot more than other cryptos.
Yeah.
Do you see this, Jord, as being the new Bitcoin or Ethereum?
I genuinely believe when they say they want to be like the financial operating system of the world, and they want to support governments, especially developing countries, like governments of developing countries, to actually give financial services to people who don't have it. I think that's a lot more of a solid mission than what Bitcoin or Ethereum is currently underpinned. So,
we've seen with Ethereum being, the payment for NFTs, and same with Bitcoin. It's whether Cardano will take to that, and that will be a new payment method. And then obviously you will see a huge increase with that. But until that stage, it's very difficult to say, well, do we get in now, as this could be the new Bitcoin or Ethereum, at the prices they're trading at in comparison to this, or don't you?
Yeah, it's a speculation at this point because the functionality is not there. I think on just pure terms of like trying to have a better transaction mechanism, it's already beaten Bitcoin. So I think it's already better in that sense, but it doesn't have the recognition, the market effect, or the network effect. Sorry. Yeah. So, in that case, it can be better, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to overthrow Bitcoin. Yeah.
Bitcoin's basically, you could call it a hype play, but obviously that's the one everyone knows. But there's obviously, there's other coins that obviously we can't swear on this, but Dogecoin and a few others. George loves Dogecoin.
Love it.
And obviously Bitcoin's and you could say Ethereum really is obviously the main focus, but I think in the next 5-10 years we're going to see these other coins that obviously people have been investing in now that are actually going to uproar and overtake. And it worries me with people investing in such hype stocks such as Bitcoin, as we've seen in the past with the huge crash. You know, for me, you know, you want to invest in a stable coin that has the foundation there.
Yeah. Like,
I don't think the entry point's there yet. I think because of the hype, Bitcoin is a catalyst for the whole cryptocurrency market. And I think Bitcoin will crash because of all the hype it's had.
It's a pro and con. That hype plays a pro and con. You know, it's great to boost it up, but just a negative thing, you know, you imagine someone in the limelight for this that sells all their shares of Bitcoin, it'd be drastic, you know.
Yeah. That obviously combined with obviously they've just rolled out phase 2 in February, so still the price is quite high, and I imagine that was probably settled off a bit. And with the crash of Bitcoin, as soon as Bitcoin crashes, I'd be keen to sort of basically invest and forget about it for 10 years and then see where it's at the end of it. Because I think it is very much that long a play. Whether you see then a 4th generation coin come out and then we'll be talking about the next one, I think it's one of those where the same with software does at the moment, it will just keep developing and developing because it's that kind of industry which it operates in as well.